second row from left.
Hi, Derrick. Steve Ashburner, NBA.com. Ime talked last round about you having to adjust to the fact that he doesn't mind fouls, maybe like your previous place in San Antonio. What did you make of that difference in philosophy? And were there any other things that you had to get your mind around in terms of how they do things with Boston as opposed to in San Antonio?
Yeah, I mean, in San Antonio, we have a lot of emphasis on not fouling or keeping them off the line. So, I mean, obviously they don't want dumb fouls here, but just trying to be a little more physical, just little things like that. I mean, it wasn't a big difference, but it's just a little adjustment that I had to make. And I mean, a lot of the system and everything was similar, obviously with Coach Udoka's time in San Antonio, but just getting used to the little nuances that go with each team.
First row on the left.
Hi, Mark Medina, NBA.com. I was wondering, from a big picture standpoint, what jumped out to you with how Ime managed the group through the ups and downs of this season?
I mean, obviously I wasn't there at the beginning, but I think just being consistent, constantly pushing us. When things would really start rolling, I mean, he still would go back to little things that we need to work on. I mean, just having that constant work ethic and stuff like that has kind of wore off on the team, and it's been a lot of fun.
Steve.
When it comes to knowing when to assert yourself offensively versus not as the new guy, I mean, you can have coaches and players tell you things, or you can have game situations that kind of dictate it. I mean, how did you find your balance between, I have to play the way I need to play versus, I got to fit in and not rock the boat?
Yeah, I mean, it was an adjustment. Just sometimes when you get to a new team, you're like, where do I fit in? But everybody has been just telling me to be aggressive, be me. So some games where I'll be a little just trying to fit in and just out there. People will pull me aside. It's like, no, we need you to do what you do. So it's just good to have those reminders. And I mean, I love playing for like the coaching staff, and the teammates have just really been pushing me to do what I do.
Mark.
Yeah, obviously, the Warriors have a lot of star power, most notably with Steph, Clay, and Draymond. But what do you think makes their supporting cast so unique? And how do you guys adjust to that, given their depth?
Yeah, everybody understands where they're supposed to be. I mean, it's a little random offensively, but it's controlled randomness. I mean, Looney, Wiggins, Poole, everybody that come off the bench for them, like they know where they're supposed to be. They know how to get those guys open, and I mean, they're always competing and doing what they need to do. So they got a good culture here, and they do a good job.
Any other questions? Thanks a lot, Derrick. Here.
I mean, they started getting good in 2014, 2015, and do you remember them from that time for you?
Absolutely. I remember exactly where I was when LeBron blocked a shot. I remember exactly where I was where the Warriors won it for the first time. I was in college, and I remember watching the game, and I was going for the Warriors then back in the day because I'm a Draymond guy, and that was a fun moment for me because my teammates were all going for Bron, like Admiral Schofield, who plays for the Magic. All these guys were betting on the Cavs. And when they beat them, I talked so much trash for a week. And to be able to, it's kind of funny to come into this arena in the Chase Center and play against a team that's still together with the success that they've had. And you acknowledge that, but at the same time, I'm not a fan anymore. It's one of those things where you're just excited to compete against those guys and hopefully create those memories for some college kids that are coming up and high school kids where they can say that you were in the moment where you guys trumped the quote super team dynasty of the Warriors.
First row, first seat.
Grant, when you look back at December from the outside, it looked really bad. Did it feel bad on the inside the way you guys were playing, and what in your mind was the reason you kind of pulled yourself out of it?
Yeah, for us, honestly, we never I feel like worried or got discombobulated about it all because at the end of the day, we knew some of those wins, most of them we had big leads in. And we had success with one another. We just didn't have consistency. So our biggest thing was challenging each other, one another, to stay together and stay the course and understand that there's a lot more to be played for. And at the beginning of the season, like, you have this record now, but it's not what this record's going to be at the end. So I feel like it brought us a little bit more together. And when everyone was talking about breaking the Jays up or can this team stay together, does Brad do this, does Ime do that? Like, for us, it was just a matter of sticking with one another, understanding that we're the team that dictates our own future, you know?
Third row.
Ime's defense is a lot different than Brad's defense. Did that have anything to do with the early season struggles, kind of figuring out a new defensive system?
Yeah, well, it was a little different because we do a lot more switch-heavy concepts here versus Brad had a little bit of that. It was kind of our secondary versus our primary. So, yeah, it was definitely something that we had to get used to. But as the time went on, it proved to be effective and it proved that we had success. So we've understood our base coverages and all the things that we can change and adapt to, and it allows us to not only have success because we were a great defense team with Brad, but I feel like we're a lead even more with Ime too.
Third row on the right.
Yeah, with the way that Steph and Jordan Poole and Clay, they run off the ball, is that a different beast in the 7-game series? Just all that off-ball, constant, 24 per second, attention you got to pay to them?
Yeah, they're unlike any other team. We've been through a team of great isolation players. We've been through a team that has a dominant man that can then play any position and guard any position. And then we played a team that is the most physical and grueling versus this team. I feel like has that physical nature, but they're a lot more able to make shots, or a lot more movement, a lot more chasing. And I feel like our team's built for that. We're built for not only that, but also the physical nature. So chasing those guys like Steph, Clay, Jordan, we know exactly how much they move off the ball. Now they're just as much a threat on the ball as they are off. So you have to take priority and understand what you want to take away from them, but also what you want to accomplish as a defense.
First row in the middle.
Oh, good. Thank you.
I'll be a team player.
Thank you.
Grant, I'm curious. Ime entered this league on a 10-day contract. He had to work for his place in this league, and then grinded his way up as an assistant. How does that show up in the way that he coaches you guys, knowing like the kind of role player he was and stuff like that?
The intensity that he brings, the tenacity, the kind of the edge, I would say, he brings to not only just the games that we play, but anything he does. When you think of Ime, you think of the ultimate competitor in the sense of he's going to challenge you for soft. He's going to try and bait you into stuff. He's going to continue to bring that edge and be mad at you if you're not bringing it yourself. So at all times, I feel like he's on go and ready to compete or ready to go at it with somebody. So I feel like that's what allows not only us to have that same match of intensity, that same energy and feeling, because he's done a phenomenal job from the day he stepped into this league as a player. And imagine now going to Pop, going through the lineage of Steve, Coach Nash, and all those guys. So he's one of those guys you really are thankful to just be around because he brings that edge.
Was that jarring, that change? I mean, like, Brad's a little more laid back. I think sometimes, like, he's still intense, don't get me wrong, but like, was that a big adjustment for you guys?
Not for me, I feel like. I love that. Like, I had Coach Barnes back in college. Like, he was that all the time. So I feel like Brad, he does a phenomenal job, especially X's and O's and personality. He's very much so a less so confrontational guy compared to Ime. So maybe for other guys, it might have caught him off guard, but it kind of refreshing for me because it was like, oh, it takes me back to my college days where Coach Barnes would challenge me and throw me off to the side of the court to run, even though I didn't do anything wrong. So it was definitely exciting to have him around.
Third row in the middle.
Hey, Grant, two questions here. First question, you talked a little bit about just seeing Golden State back when they beat Cleveland and how you're feeling about that. There seems to be parallels to what you guys have been able to do this season and just kind of how your growth as an organization, as a franchise, has gone in comparison to what they did. When you watch them play back then and you're playing with the Celtics now, do you see similarities between you two teams?
Yeah, I look back to that team when they first won it, and I think it was 2014 or 15 or something like that. And Draymond was in his third year. Steph was in his, I think, fifth, and it's kind of weird where it's like, dang, JT's I think in his fifth year. I'm in my third. Like, it's kind of, you have that guy that has been leading them, like Al and everything like that. So it's definitely kind of like where you're like, wow, this is kind of weird. But at the same time, it's not weird if you don't accomplish it, if you don't have success, if you don't establish that for yourselves and create your own legacy. So for us, this is about enjoying this moment, but also not looking too far ahead, because you still have to go through a team that's not only had this experience over the past 8 years, but also play against a team that has been together, and you want to come together even more as a team.
And you guys, just one quick follow. You guys, again, as you pointed out, there are some similarities. For them, that was kind of the genesis of this run that they're on. And how much hope does that give you going into this finals, that you also can kind of get that thing started? Because again, they didn't have a lot of experience prior to that moment, similar to where you guys are right now.
Yeah, Brad did a phenomenal job and Danny, thinking back to Danny, and of constructing this team. Guys not only in the same age range, but also that have a lot of impact in the ways they play, can adapt to one another, great people. And I feel like that's kind of what Bob and those guys did with the Golden State of the past. And it's what we kind of build for the future. It's something that we're all in that same track where we can stay together for years to come and have success. And as long as we do our jobs and trust one another and commit to one another, I feel like we will.
One more question on the left.
Grant, you guys have been the best defense team this year in the NBA. Considering how many weapons that Golden State has right now, and without trying to get in a strategy with you, do you think it'd be detrimental to your team if you guys just try to focus only on one player that the Warriors have tonight, or in this series, sorry?
Yeah, I feel like with them, when a team does that, it opens up so much more. Because when you focus on one person with the Warriors, it allows guys like Draymond and those guys playing the seams to get easy lobs, easy kick out threes. And if you're so consumed and worried about one, then you're not worried about the others. So the benefit of this team and how versatile they are offensively, it helps us, because I feel like if you're able to switch, or if you're able to do your things and do your job to keep them in front of you, you're forcing them to more isolation basketball, which is something I feel like they don't really want to do much. And over the years, they haven't wanted to do. So for us, it's just a matter of making sure that we do our jobs as a collective, as a group, and not becoming too focused on if a guy makes a deep 28-foot or 30-foot three and gets hot, because sometimes you just can't control those things. If they make those and they beat you, like, you have to nod your head, tip your cap, but at the end of the day, you just don't want anything easy.
Thanks a lot, Grant.
Thank you.
Al Horford will be up shortly.
Hi, Al. How would you say you guys match up against the Warriors? I mean, knowing how they try to pass the ball around and try to find the open shooter, is it going to be tough trying to defend against them?
No question. They're a great team. Been doing this for a lot of years. The way that they move the ball, the way that they play just presents a lot of problems. It's definitely a huge challenge for our group.
Second row on the right.
Hey, Al, two quick ones. Just how's it feel to be here? You had this long journey to get to this point, and a lot of moments where you felt just short. And then number two, it felt like this whole Celtics run kind of started with Marcus getting drafted. You joined a team that he was on. How have you just kind of seen him grow into the leader of this group in many ways?
Well, it feels great to be here. Just still soaking everything in, being here in San Francisco and being in the finals. It's something it's exciting. And then with Marcus, so happy for him, his resiliency, how he's continued to work and stay patient for his opportunities. And now him obviously being our starting point guard and leading us this way this year, winning Defensive Player of the Year. Just a lot of great things have come together. And, we're at the point that we want to be. And now we have a great opportunity in front of us.
First row, first seat.
Al, when you look back at December, things look bad with this team. Internally, how bad did it feel at that point? I know it's not one thing that pulled you out of it, but what are the things in your mind that pulled you out of it?
Well, there were several things, but in December, November, December, I feel like we were hit with the health and safety protocols and guys in and out of the lineup and different guys coming in and out, and us Coach Udoka, new staff, new team, new group, us trying to figure things out. And I know the expectations were high, but things take time. And I remember talking about it back then. It's like, hey, we're working towards something, and we have to be patient. And a lot of the times we want things to happen fast, but it just doesn't happen that way. And for us, it took us. In my mind, it was like the end of January that I felt like I was like, wait, I think, it's starting to come together. I think we have a chance. So, those days were very dark. Were very hard for us. But my whole thing was, let's just keep moving along. Keeping things in perspective. It was very difficult. It was, but it was just like, let's just keep working. I believe in this group. I think Coach Udoka believed in our group as well. And we just stayed at it eventually until finally we were able to, break through.
Fourth row on the right.
There you go. Hey, Al, this being your second tour of duty with the Celtics, obviously you're coming with a certain type of expectations. How have those expectations mirrored what you are dealing with from a reality standpoint? Like, has this been better than you thought it would be this year?
So, once the trade happened here and everything, I texted with Jason a few times, and I told him that that I was looking forward for us to being in these positions, this coming season, and I really believe that. When I shared that with him, I looked at our group, I saw the potential there. I already played with these guys before. I know what they're about, and I just knew that. If we got it together, that we were going to have an opportunity, we were going to have a chance, and it's something that I believed from the beginning, and we just stayed at it, just continue to work. And obviously, in the season, you're not going to be talking about these things, but we talked about it before the season. I strongly believed it, and then throughout, we just kept at it, highs and lows, just continue to work, continue to stay solid. And it doesn't surprise me. I'm really, really happy, really grateful to be at this point with this group.
What do you remember about those early moments when the trade was a discussion point and then it started becoming more and more real? Those days in between when it was just something to talk about and becoming real, what were your emotions like? What were some of the things that were happening kind of behind the scenes that, kind of got you excited about the prospect of coming back to Boston for a second tour duty?
Yeah, so excitement for me, but then after that, I just kind of got off of it because I didn't want to, think too much about it. And I was like, I'm just going to continue to work, do what I do. And then when I got the call from Brad, it was really, really exciting. I remember, I was driving home with my family from visiting my mom in Atlanta, and we got the call, and we're just all screaming in the car, just really, really excited, really, really grateful, and right away we're just making plans about heading back to Boston, doing the physical, doing all this stuff. So it was a really happy time for our family at that time, and especially for me because it's where I wanted to be, and yeah, that's that.
Third row in the middle.
Al, from the time you got drafted, I think what's been asked of centers or big men in the NBA has changed dramatically. You got to your time in Atlanta. When did you realize the league was headed in a different direction? And how have you been able to adapt? How have you been able to make sure that you're the kind of player that can stay on the floor?
So yeah, that's a really good question. I feel like the NBA has changed a couple times, the different ways I should say, since I've been, in the league. And, when I first got in, it was being played a certain way, more of a post-up bully ball kind of way. And then it started to shift a little bit, guys, center shooting mid-range a little bit more and things like that. I started to do that. And I remember going into my fourth year, our GM in Atlanta at the time, Rick's son, told me, he's like, hey, you're going to have to, it was actually after one of my injuries, I had a pec tear, and he was like, you're going to have to change the way that you play because, the game is physical that way. You're not going to make it. You're not going to make it that many years if you keep, because I was, very physical, trying to post up against these guys that had 20, 30 pounds on me and things like that. And he was like, you're gonna have to start practicing the corner threes. You got to start shooting it. You got to get out of your comfort zone. You got to start shooting that. I could already shoot the mid range a little bit. He was like, start doing that. And then Danny Ferry came in a few years after that and started to change the whole culture in Atlanta. And they were very adamant about, with Coach Budenholzer at the time, for me to shoot threes and to get out there and practice, and did not judge me, just let me go out there and just shoot them away. And that was the way that I had to start to change my game in that way. And then it became more of, when I got to Boston with Coach Stevens, was like, okay, well, now you're going to handle the ball more at the top. You're going to make decisions, and you got to be able to stretch the floor out, but also you have to be able to roll to the basket. You have to be able to do different things. So for me, it was always keeping an open mind and understanding that this game continues to change. And if you don't change your game, then you almost become irrelevant, and you can't stay on the floor. So the challenge for me has been always finding ways to stay relevant, to be on the floor, find a way to be useful. And obviously a big part of that is defensively. And defensively, I went from guarding in the post and having to stop a guy like Dwight Howard or something like that, to starting to defend guys in the perimeter, having to switch, defend guys out there, prove myself, guard guys out there, guards coming in and out. And that's just the way that the game, that's how it's evolving. So that also entails preparing yourself physically, mentally, all those things, to be able to do those things on the floor.
Last question in the middle.
Yeah, sorry, I'll lean over for the mic. To take you away from the finals for a second, you mentioned Atlanta. You played for Darvin Ham there for 5 years. Just got the job with the Lakers. What are kind of your memories of him as a coach at that point? Did you see future head coach for him, and kind of what are they in for with him?
Absolutely, man. D Ham, that's one of my guys. Just so much respect for him. He was one of those guys in Atlanta that kind of took me under his wing. Actually, along with Kenny Atkinson, and both of those guys. But Darvin, extremely hard worker. We really got after it. He really challenged me to be better on the defensive end, really challenged me to be a bit better player in general. Darvin is about as good a guy as you're going to see, and a big competitor. So extreme competitor. The Lakers are really lucky to have a guy like him. He's the kind of guy that you want.
Thanks, Al.
Yeah.
He's like an awesome dude.
The game name and affiliation on the left.
Mark Murphy, Boston Herald. Hey, Rob.
What's up? What are you doing?
Ime was talking yesterday about how your reduced minutes in the last round might have actually helped you. Can you just sort of talk about that process and just how you felt after each game, and especially this last one?
Yeah, I feel like the reduced minutes helps, obviously, because with the injury I had, not being able to take the time off, being in such an important part of the season. The minute reduction definitely helped. Obviously the couple of days between these series is helping too. So,
how's the pain and the swelling right now?
Yeah, it's manageable. It's kind of been getting in a routine the past couple of games of what I got to go through just to have myself ready to play.
You've been through a lot since the surgery. Just the fact that you are at this point now, how does that hit you? What's your impression?
Just grateful, thankful to be even sitting up here, getting interviewed by you guys in the finals. Obviously, like you said, been through a lot of trials and tribulations, a lot of injuries, but just looking to live in the moment, man, enjoy it.
First row on the left.
Rob, this team, makes its bones on defense. How different is the defense Ime asked you to play to what you were playing with Brad the last few years?
Yeah, he just kind of, gave me the role of being a protector, the helper, helping everybody scrambling around. And it was different, I wouldn't say difficult, but it was different, because we couldn't see what they were putting together, the coaching staff, until, we started to prosper with it a little bit. Obviously, a lot more work to do, but it was a different task, and once everybody bought in, we feel like it worked for us pretty good.
When did you see the team start to prosper with it? Was there a point where it seemed like you guys got it?
Feel like it's when we, blowing leads, going through that drought. We couldn't keep a lead, we couldn't win a game, and it was just grit, honestly. All of us just fed up, wanting to win, wanting to find a way to win.
Second row on the left.
Steve Ashburner, NBA.com. As successful as you are contesting shots and even blocking shots, how do you avoid having that used against you, that aggressiveness on your part, somehow getting taken advantage of by an extra pass or whatever?
Yeah, obviously I don't avoid it. People still get me with it, being a jumper, but just personnel, locking in personnel, knowing who you guard, knowing their tendencies, really attention to detail. Obviously stuff is happening fast on the court, but my opinion is just a big personnel deal. If I'm guarding someone who likes to pump fake, someone who isn't an explosive finisher, I got to keep that in mind.
Next question, top on the left.
Say, back to something Chris was asking you about. When things clicked defensively for you guys, did it hit everybody at once? They just realized that if they follow what Ime's telling you to do, that this is actually going to work?
Yeah, it was just a sense of trusting Coach Udoka, everybody on the coaching staff, and trusting each other. We listened, we took criticism from each other. We trusted it, we put the plan together and we seen it working, so we stuck with it.
Your role, you're a quarterback out there. Just how much did you have to deal with being more vocal, being the guy who was sort of calling the defense?
Yeah, being vocal on the court was never really my thing, obviously. But like I said, we had to step out of our comfort zone. I had to take on a different challenge, just being a guy on the back line, like you said, kind of quarterback style, seeing everything. And even just talking to my teammates, letting other people know their voices can be heard, Tice is in the game, it's the same thing, if anybody sees someone on the court, speak up about it.
Two more questions, first row.
Ime wouldn't shy away from giving his opinion if he thought you guys were doing something wrong publicly. That's not something Brad did at all in previous years. How big an adjustment was that for you and for the team?
As a family, I think of it as you protect in private and you address in public, so I say both of those guys, Coach Udoka and Brad, they address situations for sure. My years, this 1 year with Ime, the years I had with Brad, they weren't afraid to step on toes, and I feel like they help make players better.
With Ime specifically, it felt like a lot of times during the year he would say, Rob's got to play through pain.
Yeah.
So you clearly felt that and you heard that. What kind of impact did that have on you?
Yeah, better expectations for me. I got a great relationship with Coach Udoka, so I'm one of those guys he could say stuff like that too. Playing against the Bucks, he looked at me one time and just told me, you're gonna stop letting motherfuckers run you over. You know what I'm saying? So he know I respond well when he challenges me like that.
Last question. Do you feel here on the left?
Given Golden State's offense and what they might throw at you and discover about you guys game by game in this series, do you feel like your defense will be learning some things about itself as you deal with what they do game by game?
Yeah, I feel like that's every game. Obviously, a lot more attention to detail now. So yeah, everything's not gonna be perfect. And maybe plays where we get shooken up, but as long as we, bring it back to home, bring it back to core, and just stay strong within ourselves.
Thank you, Robert.
Sure.